I would like to go ahead and jump into agenda item 5 here, where we're talking about recruiting town constable level peace officers, as well as our grassroots level qualified electors. It's important that in agenda item 5, I delve into some of this. These are, in my comprehension, maybe Gregory can correct me if his insight or anybody else's insight can show me an error, but I believe the essence of Christian common law is that the closer you get to the grassroots, the more power you've got, okay? And a common law town constable peace officer, he can go anywhere in the nation and arrest anybody if he's got, quote, probable cause to form the belief that a crime has been committed, unquote. Okay? That's a tremendous amount of power. And technically speaking, in statutes, we've got the right of citizen's arrest, which is similar, but that's less solid in terms of real constitutional common law. Bringing in the bedrock of the constitutional common law is it really gets solidity when you've got a town constable assuming the duties of both a qualified elector. That's step number 1, and then step number 2 is to also affirm that you're capable of carrying the duties of a town constable. If you do both of those, you are in an extremely empowered position to provide stability for everybody in your local geographical community, as well as starting these kind of American national conferences where you've got status of being a spokesperson for a specific grassroots level community under your precinct. 10% of your local already geographically mapped out precinct, 10% of that, any way you want to divide it, is your township jurisdiction. And as long as it's reasonable that you may be able to find 10 qualified electors, counting yourself also under that 10% of your precinct jurisdiction, then you're rock solid. You're like Teflon. Nothing can stick to you as a matter of law. Okay? Because you're outside of the de facto jurisdiction. Your township is a separate common law jurisdiction. The local city and municipal county type of government, they operate under an emergency war powers municipal franchise that is only in place so long as the people in that community are not competent to responsibly self-govern. See, once one of our town constables jumps up and says, okay, I claim the office of town constable for this 10% of our precinct jurisdiction in whatever county you're in, and your precinct number, at that point, the jurisdiction of the local city and county municipal jurisdictions, it shrinks, and you're starting, you're incubating, you're sprouting a Christian common law jurisdiction that is higher level law. You read the 7th Amendment. The 7th Amendment refers to a higher level of law because we make all of our important decisions, our judicial decisions, by trial by jury. Okay, and that requires a higher level of community consensus law. Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution document, it references that the so-called de facto municipal U.S. Supreme Court and all the courts under it, their jurisdiction extends to admiralty, maritime, and suits in equity, and actions at law. Okay, that action at law, that is a kind of look-at-like, kind of crippled common law jurisdiction. It's not real common law because their franchise flows through a municipal charter, but it's at law. at common law jurisdiction, so they can kind of do common law due process if they choose to, but they've also got that equity, admiralty, maritime jurisdiction under Article 3 that they routinely do everything that they can under those, because those three jurisdictions facilitates the advancement of the agenda of the real evil empire that the 9 present Supreme Court judges are all prostituting themselves out for. So that's what they proceed under most all of the time, even down at the federal district court level and at the state circuit courts and superior courts and things like that. It's how they operate. But once we start doing common law township and precinct jurisdiction and holding our own common law jury trial verdicts, then all three of their admiralty, maritime, and equity jurisdictions evaporate, because the specific wording of the 7th Amendment clearly declares that once a fact has been tried by a jury, that fact and judicial judgment cannot be re-examined except, as the wording of the 7th Amendment says, quote, according to the rules of the common law, end quote. And that requires assembling another jury. The rules of the common law say that only a second jury is the only thing that can come to review a first jury that's made apparently, allegedly, an erroneous decision. and they're not gonna, it's almost incomprehensible that the de facto courts would assemble a jury to try to follow due process of law more efficiently that we would be doing, because we're looking for the conscience of the community. We got no rules on admissibility of evidence, things like that. It would be a game changer for them to try to follow due process of law better than we can do it. Okay, so once we start doing this process, once we start issuing more judgments, like our coronavirus partially completed jury verdict is already doing, please consider signing on to things like that. Once we start getting more traction and getting this process more popular, start issuing more jury trial verdicts, boom, we're taking it back. We're causing their jurisdiction to shrink, and ours is expanding. It's growing. It's producing truth and justice and liberty and peace and economic security for the common American people. And it's like John said, once the cat's out of the bag, you can't put the milk back in the bottle. Once it's out and it's growing, it's going to spread like wildfire. And God's kingdom is coming to this earth, Brother Gregory. God's kingdom is coming.